One of the better known curse films, though, is of course The Exorcist. The Exorcist is often kind of said to be one of the more cursed films out there. It was actually partly sold and marketed on that idea that it was controversial and taboo, and it kind of helps when you see that the film might be cursed. And there's certainly evidence that mysterious happenings did occur on the set, and as a result, maybe this film is cursed. Firstly, sets caught fire, and most of the sets were destroyed except for the set of Regan's bedroom, which of course is where most of the possession takes place, where the priests bless at times. Maybe that could be a reason why it wasn't destroyed. Jason Miller, who plays Father Karras, was warned by a priest that if you try to unveil the devil, he will do everything in his power to prevent it. A very frightening warning, certainly to get from a priest. There was also a priest called in to bless the set, and we should say that Exorcist is also apparently responsible for a lot of deaths. According to Ellen Burstyn, 9 people in total died during the production of The Exorcist. Among them, Linda Blair's grandfather, Jack McGowan, who plays Burke Dennings, died shortly from influenza, shortly after the film comes out at 54. Vasiliki Malaros, who plays Karras' mother, he dies very shortly after. Max von Sydow's brother dies on the first day of filming. The assistant cameraman had a child that died. The night watchman died, apparently, of the set. And a special effects expert also died. Now, whether or not it's just a strange coincidence, we don't know, but Max von Sydow brushes this off as just being a case of a long production, and as a result, people's lives are bound to change. It's sort of a very rational explanation for Max von Sydow. And considering his brother is one of the people that died, maybe we should take that into consideration. Now, one of the things we should also mention is that William Friedkin is a very aggressive director. He has a very confrontational and controversial style. And because of that, sometimes we can't necessarily blame a curse on some of the misfortune that becomes apparent on the set of The Exorcist. For example, just to give you an idea, he would often shoot guns on set just to get a reaction. And for the pea soup scene, he, despite telling the actor that it was going to hit him in the chest, seemingly got it shot into his face. Now, there's some dispute over whether that was the director's decision or whether or not it was intentional, but regardless, the actor got hit in the face and he wasn't meant to be. But more severely, for example, at one point he slapped one of the actors across the face. At the very end of the film, a man who was actually a priest in real life is giving the last rites to someone. I'm not going to spoil the film, that's nearly 50 years old. And when he did this, he couldn't get the reaction he wanted out of the priest. So because of that, he slapped him full force across the face, which apparently upset many of the Catholic members of the crew. There was also plenty of injuries on the set. Aside from that, Linda Blair's lower spine is fractured when lacing that the crew had fixed to her for the scene where she was jerked up in the bed came slightly loose, and as a result, her spine was fractured. Again, is that a question of a curse or is it a question of incompetence? And they actually used that take in the film as well, and it's not the only time they use a take where an actress was hurt, because Ellen Burstyn at one scene is when she's slapped by Regan is also harnessed up, and they just weren't getting the reaction that they wanted. And William Friedkin said to the stunts people, pull really hard on this one, basically give it all you've got. And as a result, Ellen Burstyn was flung across the room and injured. She really hurt her back, apparently permanently. And they actually used this shot in the film. So that scream from Ellen Burstyn when she slapped across the room is legitimate pain. Again, you're pointing more at the director here than any curse. But she seemingly got over it since, but she certainly wasn't happy at the time. Of course, the film leaning into the cursed aspect and disgust only adds to the allure of the film and the possibility that it might actually be cursed. One thing we should mention that could potentially be some sort of evil stemming from the film that led to something quite evil in itself is that there is an actual murderer in The Exorcist. So for the scene where Regan is having her brain scanned, it was actually based on a procedure that Friedkin actually saw. So because of that, he said, let me get the people who know what they're doing. He got the doctors who he saw perform the procedure the year prior. And one of these was a radiographer called Paul Bateson, who in 1977, years after the film, murdered a film reporter for Variety called Addison Verrill. Bateson called a reporter who wrote about a story arguing against his labeling of psychopath and that he targeted gay men. He was a gay man himself, as was Addison Verrill. And he was saying that he was an alcoholic, and after going home with Addison after a night in the bar, stabbed him with a knife after beating him with a frying pan. Addison eventually does get some degree of justice because Paul Bateson is found by the police. He's arrested and imprisoned, and there's actually some suggestion, and he apparently claimed that he's responsible for many more deaths of gay men in New York in the 70s, but this has never been verified. So some people may have just been throwing that in to add to the kind of mysticism and the notoriety of the film, and of course that cursed aspect. The film, we should say, and I've discussed this in the YouTube video, it has an unsettling sort of authenticity to it. Even the demon they invoke is based in fact and history. Pazuzu was a demon in Mesopotamian culture, a bringer of storms and drought. Could using a supposedly real demon have led to the film being cursed? It invoked real religion and it embraced evil for the making of the movie. The film went as far as to point that the Pope's insistence of demonology was an important part of Catholic doctrine and that was being ignored. A trailer for the film even led to seizures, which again adds to the reputation that the film has, and also could it be cursed if it's causing seizures, for example. The movie from the get-go just was warning that seeing the film was going to damage and corrupt you, and that drove people to see it themselves. And when people did see it, it lived up to that reputation of people passing out and throwing up and, fainting. And for example, is that evidence that it's cursed? But certainly the film didn't exactly steer away from those allegations because it sells. So because of that, it was also banned in many places, which kind of added to the legacy and the myth of the film. And as a result, a certain film can see that being sacrilegious is not necessarily a bad idea. The film has always had that kind of reputation. And with that idea, could The Exorcist be an affront to God and be at the whim of Satan, and as such, be cursed? Well, this is a tricky one when it comes to explanation or exorcism, because I think I also have to go with explanation, because I don't think you can suggest an exorcism for this one, which is ironic. But some of the worst reported incidents come down to Friedkin's aggressive directing style. And because of that, it's kind of hard to blame it on a curse, unless Friedkin himself was possessed by a demon. Who knows? But the film embraced a lot of that kind of hype and the idea that it is cursed or taboo. And as a result of that, it's hard to dispel or even suggest that it might be true or whether it was just slightly embellished. I will say one of the things that definitely gives me pause is the burning of the sets, except for Reagan's room. That is very creepy. And that is the only thing that gives me pause about whether it's cursed. But overall, I would say that a lot of deaths are explainable or unverifiable. So as a result, I'm going to have to suggest that The Exorcist, there is an explanation. It's not cursed. But one of the next films also deals with the devil. And I think it's probably our best case yet for being a film that might just be cursed.